Welcome. Let's take a look at our top story this hour. The White House has now released the transcript between President Trump and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky that has triggered the U.S. impeachment inquiry. The transcript shows that on the 25th of July, President Trump asked Zelensky to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter for corruption. Remember, Joe Biden is one of the top Democratic candidates and Trump's rival in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. His phone call has been at the center of an explosive and unprecedented whistleblower complaint in August. In the transcript, Trump asked Zelensky to look into how Biden lobbied Ukraine in 2016 to fire its top prosecutor, Viktor Shokin. Shokin had earlier opened an investigation into the gas firm Burisma, where Biden's son Hunter was a board member. Now, Trump had earlier acknowledged that he had ordered a halt to about $400 million in American military aid to the Ukraine. If reports are to be believed, the phone call between the U.S. president and Ukrainian president took place just before the aid halt. Meanwhile, the Speaker of the lower chamber of the U.S. legislature, Nancy Pelosi, has ordered a formal impeachment inquiry against Trump.
We want to have the strongest possible case to make a decision as to what path we will go down, and that is not endless in terms of time or endless in terms of the information that we want. But if it comes to a point where the cone of silence and the obstruction of justice and the cover-up in the White House prevents us from getting that information, that will not prevent us from going forward. In fact, it's even more grounds to go forward.
Minutes after the impeachment announcement, Trump lashed out at the Democrats on Twitter. Trump said, and I quote, "Such an important day at the United Nations, so much work and so much success, and the Democrats purposely had to ruin and demean it with more breaking news witch hunt garbage. So bad for our country," unquote. Meanwhile, comedian turned president Zelensky made no mention of the phone call during his address at the 74th United Nations General Assembly. Barely 100 days into his tenure, and Zelensky now finds himself in a scandal with Trump, the president of one of Ukraine's most steadfast allies. WION's executive editor, Palki Sharma-Parieh, is live with us from New York to tell us more about this. Good evening to you, Palki. What is the significance of this now that the transcript has been made available and Trump did, in fact, ask Zelensky to investigate Joe Biden?
Your audio is not very clear, Alison, but I'm assuming that you're asking me about what's happening here. Remember, this is an election year in the United States, and this is a controversy that the president could have done without. He has been accused of facilitating foreign interference to win an election. And this call, interestingly, was made on the 25th of July, exactly a day after the Mueller probe got over and the statements were recorded there, which were not in favor of the U.S. president. So this can be extremely damaging. We know that impeachment proceedings have begun. Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, announced impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump. Remember, there is no proof of wrongdoing either by Joe Biden, the former vice president, or his son Hunter, who've both been named. Now, there is a debate that's going on. There is one side that says that none of this proves a constitutional violation, and so there is no valid ground for an impeachment. The other side says, including the likes of Elizabeth Warren, who's a Democratic presidential candidate, she says that this is a smoking gun, that the president was on record seeking foreign help to win an election. If I have to explain the situation and the story in one simple sentence, it is a proposal for a quid pro quo by the American president to the Ukrainian president. Trump, in so many words, told President Zelensky that he would give Ukraine weapons if they helped him politically, if they investigated Joe Biden. And this is the crux of the story, and that is what makes it so unpalatable for the American public in a year where Donald Trump is seeking re-election. He has asked Zelensky basically to work with his personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, and U.S. Attorney General William Barr, whose name apparently appears 4 times in the conversation. We're looking at the transcripts where Donald Trump clearly goes on to say that and let me quote from that. He says there's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. These are the words of Donald Trump. And 4 words that he said: do us a favor. That is something that is being talked about a lot in the U.S. press, and that is something that may go against the U.S. president. Though, if you look at the U.S. democratic history, meaning the history of American democracy, not many presidents have faced a proceeding like this, and there's been no impeachment in the past. So Donald Trump may have another first to his name.
Palki, as you say there, Nancy Pelosi now has launched the official impeachment proceedings. What happens now in terms of this?
The impeachment proceeding is a long-drawn process, and that is going to take its course. But remember, this is very damaging politically. The Trump presidency is going to be has one more year left, and typically government procedures and bureaucracy takes its time. So I don't have a handle on how long, how many months, how many weeks it could take. But going by the Mueller investigation, for instance, it took more than 2 years for it to be completed. So this is going to take its time, and by which time Donald Trump would be looking at another re-election bid. It is damaging because politics is driven by perception a lot, and this would be the second time that Donald Trump has been accused, rather, of seeking foreign help. In the previous election, it was Russia. This time, it's Ukraine. He's clearly offering something in return, basically saying, dig out some dirt on Joe Biden. And the Ukrainian president seems to be a willing partner in this. It is more, if not equally damaging, for the Ukrainian leader as well. Remember, he has won an election, and he's won an election on a promise that he's going to clean up the system. He's a comedian turned politician, and he made headlines a few weeks back because he said that Parliament cannot be a refuge for wrongdoers, and there will be no law, no provision that prevents prosecution against parliamentarians. He was hailed around the world for taking such a measure. So for President Zelensky as well, this is going to be a big blot on his reputation and his anti-corruption credentials.
Palki, thank you so much for unpacking all the details there for us on the latest between Trump and Zelensky's phone call there. That was WION's executive editor, Palki Sharma Aparia, joining us live from New York. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the Bloomberg Global Business Forum in New York. He pushed for investments in India as he addressed the gathering of world leaders and top corporate executives. Modi said that India offers a unique combination of democracy, demography, demand, and decisiveness.
Today, India is in a unique position where our rapid growth enables us to cater to diverse demand. Our people are rapidly defeating poverty, moving up the economic ladder with increasing purchasing power. Thus, if you want to invest in a market where there is a scale, come to India. Our middle class is a huge segment of people who are aspirational and has a global outlook. Thus, if you want to invest in a market where the latest trend and futures are appreciated, come to India.
He added that India is set to achieve its target of becoming a $5 trillion economy. Listen in.
अब भारत ने एक बड़ा लक्ष्य रखा है, देश को $5 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी बनाने का। साथियों, जब 2014 में हम सरकार में आए थे, तो देश की इकोनॉमी करीब-करीब $2 ट्रिलियन के आसपास थी। बीते 5 वर्षों में हमने इसमें लगभग $1 ट्रिलियन जोड़ दिया और अब हम कमर कसकर $5 ट्रिलियन के लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं। फ्रेंड्स, इस बड़े टारगेट को अचीव करने के लिए हमारे पास कैपेबिलिटी भी है, करेज भी है और कंडीशंस भी हमारे साथ है। आज भारत की ग्रोथ स्टोरी के 4 अहम फैक्टर हैं जो एक साथ दुनिया में मिलने वाली शायद ये रेयरेस्ट ऑफ द रेयर कॉम्बिनेशन है। ये 4 फैक्टर हैं डेमोक्रेसी, डेमोग्राफी, डिमांड एंड decisiveness.
And after the investment pitch at the Bloomberg Summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also holding meetings with the CEOs.